Even though Torrey Pines is located within the busy city of San Diego, it remains one of the wildest areas of land on the Southern California coast. Here you will find 1,500 acres of hiking trails and beautiful coastal views. Since it is such a popular spot, parking can be a little bit tricky here. There are 2 paid lots that you can see highlighted in orange. The North Beach lot is way bigger, but it is across the street and down the coast a little bit. Parking in the South Beach lot is really nice because you'll be parking directly at the bottom of the hill inside the reserve. If paid parking is not your style, there are a couple of free options. One is located on the street near the North Beach lot, and the other is right along the coast. Depending on how busy it is when you visit, these can be extremely hard to get, but somehow we usually seem to luck out. This will, however, mean that it is going to be a little bit more of a walk to get into the reserve. One other benefit of paying to park in the South Beach lot is that you might be able to drive all the way up the hill that we're going to be climbing in just a second and parking at one of the upper trailheads. That will save you the effort of having to do this initial climb, but if you do the hike down to the beach, you're going to have to go back uphill at some point. And speaking of cars being able to go up this hill, that also means that they're able to go down this hill, so please be sure to watch out for traffic as you make your way up the hill. We've seen a lot of people hiking up and down this hill with earbuds in, and they're completely oblivious to their surroundings. If you have someone driving their car that's not paying attention, that could lead to a very dangerous situation. In today's video, we are going to be hiking almost every single trail inside the Torrey Pines State Reserve. The first of which resides about 3/4 of the way up the hill that we just climbed, and it's the Fleming Trail. If you're looking for a trail that takes you down to the beach, the first 2 hikes in this video are not for you because they are both loop trails and they don't go down to the water. They do, however, take you to some really nice viewpoints. This trail is definitely beginner friendly. It's only about 0.6 of a mile long with 66 feet of elevation gain. This is the easiest hike inside the reserve, and since it's the first one that you come to as you make your way up the hill, it's a great warm-up as well. Something that we love about Torrey Pines is that since it's located in San Diego, it typically has nice weather almost all year long. But that being said, most of the trails here are almost completely exposed to the sun. So if you visit during the warmer summer months, you need to bring plenty of water and plenty of sunscreen. We also recommend bringing some really grippy shoes. Even though it might not be too necessary for the first 2 hikes in this video, some of the trails a little bit later on can get pretty slippery. This trail has 2 very easy to access viewpoints, both of which give you really nice looks down the coast. You might also get to see some birds testing their flying skills along the cliffs, or even some really cool military aircraft, which we'll show you in just a little bit. In addition to birds, you might see other animals, including some reptiles. I believe this guy is a striped racer, or at least I hope so because they are non-venomous. From the Fleming Trail, we climbed a little bit further up the hill to the Parry Grove Trail. One thing is for sure, the hills here are probably going to kick your butt. But at least you have some really nice scenery to counteract all the heavy breathing and suffering. In addition to the Parry Grove Trail, you can also find the Scripps Overlook and the Whitaker Garden here. This loop is going to be a little bit more strenuous than the Fleming Trail, and you're going to have to navigate 118 stone steps. Since these steps are made out of stone, they can be really uneven, so if you're not very sure-footed, please be careful. Once you get to the bottom of the steps, you will be coming to this fork. It doesn't really matter which way you go because this is a loop trail, so you're going to end up right back at this spot anyways. We did see a second striped racer on this trail. He was just cruising along, minding his own business, so we didn't bother him. V and I talked it over, and this is probably our second least favorite hike in the reserve. We don't have anything against it, there are just so many other trails in the reserve that give you much better views for pretty much the same amount of effort. Once you complete the loop, it is time to climb right back up those 118 steps. Once you get to the top of the steps, if you make a right, you can take a short trail down to the Scripps Overlook. I mentioned awesome military aircraft earlier, and we spotted several Osprey while we were there on this visit. If you're not familiar with an Osprey, it's a plane that can take off and hover like a helicopter, but it can also fly like a regular plane. It's pretty darn cool. After taking in the views for a while, we were on our way to the next stop. This is the shortest trail in the park and it is called High Point. It's pretty hard to consider this one a hike. The trail itself is only about 100 yards long with 39 feet of elevation gain. This is our least favorite trail in the entire park. Even though you are climbing up to one of the highest points, the majority of the view is blocked by trees. So you don't really get the chance to take full advantage of the scenery. That being said, you can probably be in and out of this trail in 5 to 10 minutes, so if you have a little bit of extra time to burn on your day, you can always climb up there and check it out really fast. We are now on to some of the more legit trails that do have beach access. This is the Razor Point Trail to Beach Trail. As I mentioned earlier, if you pay for parking at the South Beach parking lot, you can drive further up to some of the trailheads. This is the furthest trailhead that you can park at. Just outside the parking lot, there are tons of informational signs with wildlife and even plant life that you can expect to see inside the reserve. If you look hard enough, you might even be able to spot one of the rarest pine trees in the United States. I'm not very good with scientific names, but I'm gonna give it a shot anyways. It is the Pinus torreyana. We did end up making a right at the fork. This is probably one of the longest ways to get down to the beach, but it will take us by Red Butte and Razor Point. Red Butte is one of the spots that we typically like to stop at when we visit Torrey Pines. While it's nothing earth-shattering or incredible, this small red rocky outcropping is a great place to stop for yet another fantastic view of the reserve. One of the great things about taking this trail to the beach is that it is pretty much all downhill. We were definitely grateful for that after all of the climbing that we had been doing on this day. If you parked in the lower paid lots or in the free parking, you also have the option to take this trail all the way down to the beach and then walk the beach all the way back to your car. Not only is it a beautiful stroll along the beach, but it will keep you from having to climb back up these hills. On the way to Razor Point, we spotted interesting formations that almost reminded us of Bryce Canyon. This is another great spot to check out the coast, and we even had this small patch of purple flowers to see on this day. From Razor Point, we made a right at the fork to continue on towards Yucca Point. This is the way that you need to go if you still plan on heading down to the beach. If you visit in the spring, not only will you have some stunning coastal views, but you might also have some beautiful wildflowers to look at. The view that you get at Yucca Point is fairly similar to the view that you get at Razor Point. I would feel pretty safe in saying that you could probably just do one or the other. We wanted to do our best to capture all the best things that Torrey Pines has to offer for the video, so we ended up doing both. The Yucca Point overlook is also located almost directly at the top of the beach trail. You're going to have about 100 stairs to navigate on your way down to the beach, and this is one of the trails that I recommend having the good shoes for because it gets very slippery in certain spots. At the bottom of the hill, you're going to come to an intersection where the beach trail meets up with the Broken Hill Trail. You want to make a right here to go down to the beach. You need to be really careful at this point because on your right side there is an exposed cliff and it is a long ways down. If you're going to be hiking all the way down to the beach, we highly recommend checking the tides before you go. The waves can come all the way up to the bottom of these stairs, and it would be a bummer to put in all the effort to get down there and realize that there's no beach to hike to. We made a left at the bottom of the stairs and headed to one of our favorite spots on this beach. If the tides are low, you can just stay on the sand and go around this outcropping, but it's just so much fun to take this narrow pathway that's been carved into the rock. Things can get extremely slippery here, especially if the waves have been crashing up on the rocks. On this side of the beach, you will find some tide pools and this tiny slot canyon where if you hang your GoPro low enough, it'll look like you're on some sort of Star Wars trench run. If you continue about 3/4 of a mile down the beach, you will end up at Black's Beach. But be warned, that is a clothing optional beach, so you might catch yourself an eyeful. We had one more trail left to do on our visit, and it was going to take us all the way back up to the top of the hill. While the Razor Point to Beach Trail was 1.69 miles long with 278 feet of elevation change, The Broken Hill to North Fork Trail is a little bit shorter, coming in at 1.2 miles, but it has a little more elevation change with a gain of 302 feet. This was our first time hiking the Broken Hill Trail because we usually just take the Razor Point to Beach Trail. If you're here for a workout, this is the longest and steepest trail in the reserve. It's really cool that you can link these trails together to get as much or as little of a workout as you want. If you link all of the trails together like we did in this video, you can expect a hike that's around 7 miles long with about 950 feet of elevation gain. There are only 2 trails in the park that we didn't end up hiking this day, and one is a fork off of this trail. If you take a right here, you will be jumping onto the South Fork. This will give you a little bit more distance and a little bit more elevation gain. I don't think that it gives you any more of a spectacular view or anything like that, so we ended up sticking with the North Fork. Once you start to see these bridges, the trail is going to be leveling out and you are almost at the top. I'm not gonna lie, we were both getting a little bit tired and hungry, and we breathed a sigh of relief when we saw that truck driving on the road ahead. Once you reach the road, it is pretty much smooth sailing. Don't forget to stop by this sign and check out some really cool military history and some antiques. A little under half a mile down the road, you should be back at the Razor Point Trailhead parking lot. And that is almost directly across the street from the Torrey Pines Lodge. Even though you can't stay here, this is still a really cool spot where you can learn a lot about the geology and some of the animals that inhabit the area. Luckily, we didn't come across this guy on the trail. From the lodge, it's pretty much a simple and straightforward walk all the way back to the car. Torrey Pines will always be one of our favorite spots to go hiking in San Diego. If you want to see another one of our favorites, click in the upper corner right now to watch our video about Potato Chip Rock. If you can handle the hills there, Torrey Pines will be a breeze. Well, that's going to do it for this video. We hope you enjoyed it, and if you did, be sure to hit that like button and subscribe. We have some really cool videos coming up and you definitely don't want to miss them. If you want more information about Torrey Pines, including GPS coordinates and the weather, head on over to thatadventurelife.com.